featuring Professor Ken and Reek in the Lion's Den.
It's been a minute. I know y'all like, man, Reek and Ken don't even do the Lion's Den anymore, but you're sadly mistaken. We still do the Lion's Den, and this is it right now. How goes it, Professor, a.k.a. PimpinKen, a.k.a. whatever you want to call it?
How's it going, my brother? Just sitting here, man, reminiscing, man, of all the many conversations we done put on the internet, thousands of hours,
Right. This one, I think...
It's overdue. Yeah, it's overdue.
This one, I think people will be interested in. Child support. I know we done touched on certain things, but, get more in depth with child support. People, getting their checks garnished and, getting their license pulled or, that whole thing. What you got to voice about child support?
Well, I had an incident recently where, I was asked to pay child support, for my daughter. And, I was looking at the laws, the Texas FAM codes and statutes, 1555CA, that talks about the statutory minimum that a father should pay for a child. So for one child, it's 20%. For two child, I think it's 25%. Three child is 35%. And then you get up and you go up to 40%. That's the maximum. But the only way you can change an order from the lower court or a trial court is you file a modification or you file an appeal. So when I missed my court date, the judge gave me a default order. Basically, what that means that they assume my wealth based on the configurations of my social media and various other things. So actually, they had me paying a substantial amount of money for child support. So I filed a modification, a deduction modification, and the judge said that there's a certain criteria according to Texas FAM 150055, 0056, different statutes. And it says that you have to have a substantial material change of circumstances. So once I submitted my tax reforms and I showed that the amount of money that the judge, the trial court original order had ordered me to pay was significantly different from what I make on my tax returns. They had to immediately acknowledge that it was a substantial material change in circumstances. However, the judge did not rule in my favor. So when I went to a lawyer tried to charge me $15,000. Now, that's a lot of money.
Right.
So me having past experience with the law, I decided to file my own appeal. So in order to file an appeal, you got to get on the docket. You got to file a docketing statement. You got to file a certificate of service. You got to have a process server serve. Everybody involved. The AG, assistant attorney general, the mother. And all parties involved. So I filed a modification. And once I filed the modification, I got on the court docket, and they gave me a court date. The judge, like I said, he ruled against me, but I went and I filed an appeal. The appeal was $15,000. I didn't have $15,000 to throw away to a lawyer. I wasn't going to get no lawyer, $15,000. He didn't guarantee me anything. But one thing I knew is that the law was on my side. So the judge had abused his discretion. And also, it's a Rule 52 with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says that it's a full-pronged test for a appellate court to follow in order to determine whether the lower court judge his discretion, also violated judicial procedures. Where in my case, the judge did violate what they call a plain error, which is the Rule 52, and they also he error in his ruling, and litigating. So I was able to, like I said, I I filed a documented statement, also filed an affidavit, saying that I was going to be pro se. Pro se means you represent yourself, and upon representing myself, I had to perfect an appeal. To perfect the appeal, you first of all must have a cover letter, you must have a table of contents, an index of authority, a statement of issue, statement of facts, statement of the argument, the argument, and what they call prayers and conclusions. And you also got to do what they call a certificate of conference, where you have to tell them exactly how many words is actually in the appeal. And you got to redact anything with the mother or your name or the child name on it. So when I first did it, I was only one attorney general. Then they eventually went and got 3 attorney generals, and I was able to perfect the appeal and legally, argue and put my citations and my rulings and statutes, in context of law. And because of that, they had to write me what they call a certificate of conference, where they had to ask me, can they get an extension? That's how bad I whooped their ass. You know what I'm saying? And so they didn't think that I was going to fight for my rights. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, they forgot that I wrote 2 books, and I'm a hell of a researcher. So I'm really astute when it comes to researching and withholding information and retaining information. So I was able to perfect the appeal, and you got to do what they call e-file. So I e-filed it, and what I learned through this experience, the reason why I'm telling everybody this is because everything I said sounded like foreign language, because it was foreign to me. I didn't know nothing about certificate of conference. I didn't know what a statement of issues. I didn't know what no index of authority or a statement of conference or interest of person, what a process service. Well, I didn't know none of these things, but I learned them within 8 days because they gave me such a short notice. They just sent me a letter saying you got 8 days to perfect your appeal. Now at that point, I got scared. I started to say, well, let me go ahead and just pay this $15,000. No matter however I had to come up with, I got to come up with 15,000 in millimeter seconds. But something told me, no, fight. Fight for your rights. Fight for what you believe in. And that's what I did. And upon fighting, I was able to, educate myself in millimeter seconds and become very astute with the law. And I learned one thing about the law, Brother Reek. The law ain't nothing but a series of rules. Mm-hmm. That's their game. But the rules are so extensive and there's so many rules that it'll scare the average person away. But because I write books, and when you write a book, you read your own book 20 times before you send it to the publisher. I was used to reading stuff over and over and over again, so I just kept reading the laws over and over again. And I finally, peeped it. It's not that complicated. It was real simplistic. So I was able to, figure it out, perfect the appeal, and I submitted the appeal and threw the entire Attorney General office off guard, because they didn't think that a man that didn't spend time at Yale or Harvard or Columbia University, that never went to law school, can perfect an appeal and make us ask for an extension. But it's all a trap, my brother, and what it does is it put black men and brown men and poor white men in a very precarious situation where we have to fight in a system that is designed to make money. You understand me? And the way they design it is that, they make it so complicated for you to understand it. So when you say you pro se, it's hard for you to be pro se. So the issues that I fought on was that, the judge had ordered me to pay $45,000 more than what my tax returns reflected as my, what they call, net obligatory resources. You know what I'm saying? So because of that, they had to acknowledge that there was a substantial material change of circumstances, meaning that my, the way that the Texas Fam Court rules, ruling and statutes say or remand a lower court's decision, because you got to have a high bar. So I met the bar because I found cases that court side with my cases through citation, Rodriguez versus Rodriguez, Paul versus Schoolage. You know what I'm saying? It was a couple cases that were relevant to my case, and I was able to articulate that in what they call an index of authority. Index of authority is your cases, rulings, and statutes. You know what I'm saying? So I pointed that out in that particular section of my table of contents. You know what I'm saying? So I was able to litigate, and I was able to create, find law, case law that substantiate my claim that the judge, fell in the error by not. It was a judicial error because he did not acknowledge, or he did not recognize that there was a substantial change of material circumstances which caused him to abuse his discretion, also to create what they call in Rule 42 a plain error. So appellate court has to correct. They don't have to, but it's their duty and to protect the procedure integrity of the court, to point out plain error. So but the way it was so complicated, my brother, I see why a lot of brothers get railroaded, and a lot of brothers, they get charged, with these what they call contempt of court if you don't pay child support. So contempt of court is what they charge them with. They're not charged with the failure to pay child support. They charge you with a failure to follow a judge ruling or a judge order. And if you don't follow a judge order, that's contempt of court, and the mother could take you to court on contempt. And because of that, a lot of people end up going to jail. Now, what I'm saying, the law says there's no system, in particular the child support system, that can change an original order by a court. So what that means is once the judge put an order out, that order is pretty much the law. You know what I mean? And you have to follow that law. If you don't follow the law, then you fall up under contempt. Right. And that's how a lot of brothers end up going to jail. But, a lot of brothers, especially in default orders, they can't pay the order because the order is usually exaggerated and it's over, it's overwhelmed. You know what I'm saying? Because, like in my case, because they assumed that I was a celebrity, they felt that I can pay this substantial amount of money monthly. So would it end up being, instead of being child support, it was adult support. So the mother end up, manipulating the system and telling the system, well, the father's worth this and the father's worth that. And the AG, Attorney General, is usually up on it because everybody get paid. They get paid for processing it, and they also get paid on interest. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, when they do arrears, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, arrears. That's what I was about to ask you. Was it arrears or was it,
Yeah, it was arrears and it was child support but see, because I wasn't in court and because they had a Zoom and I didn't know how to use Zoom at the time, at the time of the court proceeding, you know what I'm saying? And the Attorney General was on the phone as well as the mother, and they knew that I couldn't they knew I didn't know how to use Zoom. I pointed that out in my appeal. I said that the Attorney General also asked for the judge to disregard my tax form. Now, in Dave versus Felina, you know what I'm saying? It says, that as long as you got official paper, that you could actually present that to the court, and that's considered as evidence, right? So my tax returns was considered as evidence, but the Attorney General tried to argue the fact and say these tax returns was falsified and they weren't certified. I stipulated in my appeal that it's against the law to falsify original federal documents, and if that's the case, as an officer of the court, why did she, do her job, and why did she not bring me before the court, bring me before the law? So it was a lot of things that they were doing, but the judge didn't think that I can litigate. He didn't think that, I would come back on appeal. So a lot of things that he did were errors. He erred on multiple cases, and he ruled, as a matter of law, that I didn't have any substantial change in material change in circumstances, which it was $45,000. And also he gave me what you call assumed minimum wages. He tried to force, the circumstances. Then when he asked the Attorney General to stipulate, the ruling, she did not stipulate it. She said that a judge can give whatever child order. That's not true. According to the Texas FAM ruling, a statute, 1555 CA, that's not true. So, I think a lot of these parents, a lot of these mothers don't realize is that, it's part of mass incarceration. How can somebody, try to lock the father up and tell you that they have your child's best interest at hand? Why would you want to lock me up if I have a daughter or a son that needs me and I'm willing to, support that child or that daughter or that son, but, you have this insatiable appetite, in a systemic system of racism to incarcerate me because it fits your narrative. So if the mother is not satisfied and the mother don't get what she thinks she should get, and even if the father don't have it, then the system gets what they want, another body in the system where they can put her under slave labor and they can work for 15 cents an hour, and the child still end up being, fatherless, right, or motherless because they don't have access to their child. And that child can't see that parent because that parent is incarcerated. Now, this is actually, illegal what they're doing because, you don't go to dogs and say, hey, you have 5 puppies, so therefore I will give you child support. You don't charge dogs with child support. You don't charge cats with child support. You don't charge lions with child support. You don't charge monkeys with child support. But here it is, you put the burden on a human being and you say you are forced to pay child support. Now, I can agree that a man should take care of his child, but that sex was consensual. So if the mother don't want to be with the father, and if the father and the mother can't be together, and the mother has issues with the father, and she's being irate and disrespectful and belligerent, and the father don't want to be around that, then hey man, that's the mother's issue. That she has with the father. It ain't the issue with the child. And a lot of times when these mothers have issues with the fathers, Rick, what they do is they tell the child that your father this and your father this, your father ain't this, your father ain't. But what they really not telling them is that I have an issue with your father, and I'm lying to you as my child and telling you that your father have issues and your father don't love you, when in fact is that you're mad because the father that moved on, he got a better chick, he got a downer chick, and she's doing more for him than you doing for him, and she might be prettier than you, she might be more dedicated to you, and you upset because he's no longer with you, so you take that aggression and you pass it to the child, and a lot of child say, my father wasn't in my life. They don't talk about, how many times the father called and the mother hung up on him, or how many times the father called and the mother was belligerent. Who wants to be on the phone with a belligerent woman who you ain't having sex with, or she ain't doing nothing for you? You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these women, in particular in the African-American communities, African-American women, a lot of them can be very belligerent and disrespectful because they feel that, because they have a child by you, that, they have some type of ownership on you, and that's not true. Like I said, the child support thing needs to be revisited, Congress and the law need to relook at that and say, okay, well, look, the only fair thing I can do is that you had a child for 6 months and the father had a child for 6 months. Nobody is required to pay child. What we do require that if the mother so desire, the child so desire, that y'all split custody. I think that that's the only fair alternative to the child support. And then the child support, if you don't pay your child support, they take your passport. You don't pay your child support, they take your license. They do everything in their power to keep you from being, productive in society.
Right.
And nobody ever addresses those issues, because they don't understand that it's a system. It's a system because ain't nobody gonna be so, interested in your child. You know what I'm saying? Nobody, if they didn't have some ulterior motive. The Attorney General, she act like I committed a felony. She's like, yeah, you this and you that, and you got this and you got that, and I see you on this line and that line. And I'm like, look, ma'am, I said, people on I'm saying, just because you're on TV don't make you rich. There's many instances and many examples of people who were rich and famous and fell off. You know what I'm saying? And no longer, have money. But if you don't see it in a tax return, if you don't see it in my Social Security number, because that's what the Social Security number for is to track income. You know what I mean? Through 1099. So it's many ways for them to compute, one's earnings and one's wages. You know what I'm saying? But these folks that got to the point where they just guesstimating your wages, and if you don't pay them, you know what I'm saying? You're in contempt. You go to jail. And then the law is so complicated and so stringent. You know what I'm saying? Stringent that most people can't interpret it. You know what I'm saying? So they end up, giving up before they get started. And, eventually, you know what I'm saying, if they can't pay child support, they end up in jail, they end up on the run. But I do advise all young men, if you have the money, take care of your children. Do what you can for your child. You know what I'm saying? And as hard as it is, man, to deal with child, baby mamas, we're going to have to, try to figure out how can we, swallow our pride and, humble ourselves and get to those children, man, because, these baby mamas are so well protected by the system and they're so empowered by the system that they talk to you crazy. And that's actually a form of blackmail. Some sisters in the hood be like, if you don't do this or that, I'm going to call child support on you. Knowing that child support don't have the child's best interest at hand. That's the biggest myth on earth. There's so many brothers incarcerated because of child support, and people say, well, child support got the mother. And a lot of times, especially these brothers out here hustling, they buy Jordans and buy all kind of, clothes for the baby. Right. And the mother, see them riding a nice car or splurging with the next bra. And they try to figure out, how can I go in his pocket? How can I, turn his life upside down, make his life difficult? So it's been used to weaponize, black women too. You know what I'm saying? And poor women, that who want to, bring some type of discomfort to a person's life. And it's real, man. I'm like, but I thank God that He gave me a brain that I can fight. I can fight for myself, but a lot of people can't fight. And the only reason why I'm fighting because I'm eventually gonna write a book on child support, and just pretty much spill the beans on it. Like, hey, look, man, a lot of these women, man, they don't want child support, they want adult support. You know what I'm saying? They want to take the money, go get their hair done. They want to use the money for themselves. Right. And a lot of women, you know what I'm saying, they don't want the father in the house because, you know what I'm saying, they want the child to be on their side. How many times you done seen dudes want to fight their father, or girls want to fight their daddies, because they got into it with their mama. Because the mama then told the child that the father was the enemy. So the child growing up thinking that, and that's why they always be like, I'm gonna take my mama's side, and the kid always take the mama's side because the mama is in a very strategic position because she feeding them. Whoever, it's like a dog, and I'm not comparing children to dog, but if you feed a dog and somebody messes with you, that dog gonna kill them, because they know that their survival is connected to that person. If the mother's feeding the child and the father is being, excommunicated on some level because the mother is not being around the father, the mother's not, all the way down with him, or don't hate his guts or whatever, then that child is being misled to believe that that father, that parent is no longer, interested in them. But in reality, is the parents is no longer interested. Because if you cheat on a woman, some women go crazy behind that. Motherfucker, you ain't gonna never see your child again. It's over with. Yeah. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Don't call me no more, motherfucker. And you know what I'm saying? You be like, man, I just want to see my child. You ain't gonna never see him. Your daddy don't never call. Your daddy ain't nothing. Your daddy don't care nothing about you.
You should have thought about that when you went up in that bra.
Yeah, she lying. She telling the child that you don't want to be with him and that you all, with some other woman children say, man, I hate my father, I hate my mother, I can't stand that bastard, man, I don't know him. Well, you never asked the question, have you ever talked to your father and say, hey, what happened? He gonna say, yeah, well, every time I tried to call, son, your mama wouldn't let me speak to you. Every time I tried to, send you some stuff, you know what I'm saying, I mean, she wouldn't give me the address, you know what I'm saying, I mean, and every time, I try to reconcile, you know what I'm saying, I mean, she go have a temper tantrum. The kids don't know that.
Right.
All they know is what she tell them. It's one-sided, because I'm in this scenario myself, but like I said, I love all my kids, man. I took care of all my kids to the best of my ability, you know what I'm saying? But, the child support thing, man, putting those folks in people's business, man, them folks don't give a damn about your kids, man. Child support ain't never care about no kids. These people, they out working a job and they got a script in front of them. And the script tell them do this, that, and the other, and this is the rules and regulations for this. When I went down to the child support place, and people treated me like I was a second-class citizen. And I was like, man, what can I do, to, make this situation better?
Now tell
they forced me to go to court.
Now tell me this, it might be some youngsters out there right now going through that. They may be 21s, 22s, and they're like, you know what? It may be hard for me right now. Maybe if, I just, stall them out till I'm like 30 or 40, it'll get better. Dodging it and not
man, if you got some money, man, and you got access to your child, always, try to do what you can for that child, and that child is going to remember that. And a lot of times, in my case, my children, as they got older, they said, Dad, we don't want money, we want time. So a lot of kids just want to spend time with you, and they want you to, especially the girls, they want to, see what type of man you is, so when they grow up, they could figure out what type of man that they want to find, they want to see what daddy would do in certain circumstances, certain situations. Little boys want to, get tucked into the ball game, they want you to go to their baseball game, their football game. That means a lot to them because, when they look over there, they can be the star player. They can be scoring 90 points a game. And, they look over there and then the guy ain't scoring but 2 points, but his parents, both his parents is at the game. That hurts them, They be like, man, I wish my father could see me score these 90 points. So, and you never know when the next Michael Jordan or the next Kobe or Michael Jackson or Mike Tyson might, come from your sperm. Because, we create 50% of ourselves when we have a child. And we might be creating the next great thing. So, it's always good to be in that child's life, as much as you can.
Right. And probably don't play to, maybe your father was absent. So a lot of brothers be like, well, my dad wasn't around for me, so it ain't gonna hurt me not being around for them. Break that pattern too, It don't always
well, my father was in my life, but I used to wish he wasn't because he used to beat us with stench cords. So, a lot of people think, man, I wish I had a father. No, I wish my father was like Saddam Hussein, and we was like little country. He was a dictator, you know what I'm saying? And he really dictated the household. So, I used to envy my partners who didn't have a father because they could stay out to 12 at night. They used to be in my window trying to sneak me out the window, telling my man, let's go have some fun. So, it's a catch-22, you know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of people wish they had their fathers in their life, man. I kind of wish I didn't have a father in my life, but then, when I get older and then I raised my child, I understood the importance, of a father. Father is so important because, when you think about the manhood, you think about, life, you know what I'm saying? What your father does, he does the same thing that the lion does. doing a lot of things that you wouldn't do. And I think a lot of these guys wouldn't be killing like they're killing if they had their fathers in their life. So don't get me wrong. Fathers is very essential. We need to be in our children's life. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is the system that's designed, to attack the fathers throughout the ghettos in America is very, very, very systemic and very racist and very geared around white supremacy and further enslavement and further mass incarceration of the community, because of just the tactics that they use. And like I said, they tell you, if you can't afford a lawyer, they appoint you one. But in child support court, they generally don't appoint a lawyer. So you have to go pro se. So pro se is when you represent yourself. And if you don't understand, and with law, let me tell you something. With law, Brother Reek, if you miss one thing, if you don't put the process, if you don't get the certificate of service, a certificate of conference, a certificate of conference, if you don't do the index of authority, you don't do a statement of issues, a statement of facts, a statement of the argument, or conclusions and prayers, or appendix. If you don't do none of those things, then the appellate court throw your case back. You know what I'm saying? They reject your case. So you have to understand each and every appellate rule. You got to understand each and every rule dealing with the trial court. So that's very difficult if you ain't got the training. If you ain't been to law school and you don't understand how the law works. So that puts you in a very precarious situation because now, you got to learn in 4 or 5 days what these folks been doing for 20, 30 years. And if you don't serve a person, for example, if I had a civil suit against you, my brother, and if I didn't serve you, and I have a process server to serve you or a sheriff to serve you, then by law, that does not, you're not liable because you was never served. If you miss one step, then like they told me, you have to redact the child's name. You got to redact the mother's name. You got to redact anything that means blacking out anything that's connected to you or the child. They can say that this is a child because they got to protect the interest of the child because in the interest of a child, that's how it says. And then it has the child's initial and it has your initial. And if you don't redact it, then they have to reject your appeal. So these are the things that a lot of young men don't understand. But because I'm very astute and I learned quick, I was able to ascertain, years and years of knowledge and cram it into 8 days and perfect an appeal. And they were surprised. Even the appellate court clerk said, "Hey man, you're a phenomenal dude. How did you learn all this so quick?" I said, "Man, my life depended on it." You know what I'm saying? Y'all trying to give me a substantial amount of child support in an issue where it don't even reflect my income. It don't reflect my income at all. But they said, well, you got this, you got that, and you do this, you do that. Therefore, we assume. That's why they say assume minimum wages. They add an extra $15,000 to my child support, and they charge me 100% of what I made. So they only supposed to charge me 20%. So that was a substantial material change in circumstance, and that was also abuse of discretion on the part of the lower court. But they never, they never expected me to be able to litigate. They never knew that I would go and look at the citation in the case laws, because it's a lot. And for everything that happened, there's a case law. There's somebody that went through what you went through. So you got to go into those case laws and those citations, and you got to be able to extrapolate, what's relevant to your case. So I was able to do that because, I'm very astute. I'm writing a book right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing a lot of research. I know how to research. But just suppose I didn't have the skill sets that I had and the attributes, in terms of, comprehension and in terms of education that I have. Imagine, what would happen to me. I'd have been in jail for contempt of court because, I wouldn't have been able to pay this substantial amount of child support, which depletes my monthly income. You know what I'm saying? They didn't consider consider, that, I got $3,000, on this, $1,500 on this, $1,000 on this. I mean, I might have $10,000 a month in expenses. So if you give me this exorbitant amount of child support, it depletes my funds to take care of myself.
Right.
And the Texas fam statute 1555, it says that anything that affects, the child's, it affects the parent or the child's ability to take care of the child, means that, that the child has to be protected. You can't protect the child if you're putting pressure on the father, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, but it's deep, man, and for the young brothers out there, man, all I can tell you, man, I got 6 kids, man, they cost, you know what I'm saying? They cost a lot of money. And, if you're going to try to pull out, that don't work sometimes because, if that broad got that monkey grip and she squeezed and some pre-con come out, you know what I mean? You out of there, So, you know what I mean? And if you don't use a condom, you know what I'm saying, you out of there, you know what I'm saying? So I can tell dudes is strap up, man, and, unless you're ready to be with that woman and you're ready to have that kid, man, just wear a condom, man, or, be celibate.
For real.
Because it costs, man, but, I'm fighting for all the brothers, man, and like I said, I had my daughter with me all last 2 weeks, man. I took care of her immensely, I do everything for her, I love my daughter, but, I think that the system, and the mother ain't really tripping. She asked them to, that's what made me go to court. That's what made me fight my case myself. I didn't think no lawyer can fight, because he couldn't see what I seen. When she asked them to drop, the case and the lawyer, the child support, and they refused to do it after she and I both filed modification forms with the Attorney General, I knew then that, this system was a system to, destroy our men, our brothers and sisters. So I wanted to develop a precedent, develop a argument and hopefully, reverse this case, this order from this judge, this ruling, this memorandum of sentence, take it back and give it back to them and let every brother in the country see that, they can refute, they can't argue if they don't have a job. They can't argue if they don't have the money that the system is trying to pay. That, it is a thing called substantial material change of circumstances. And there's a such thing called abuse of discretion. And you can just, they can just look at my case and they can see how I fought my case and they can fight their case in the same manner because somebody had to set the precedence, somebody had to fight, for the team. And I don't think a lawyer could have litigated or a lawyer could have adjudicate, or litigate, I should say. He couldn't, argue, the way I argue because I read the entire transcript, what they call the reporter's records. I read it in its entirety, and, once I read it, I seen, the errors that was made by the lower court as well as by the Attorney General, because they assumed that I wasn't legally astute, that I was ignorant.
So the best thing you recommend for a young brother or an old brother, what, like get some, get down with maybe if you got somebody that's a paralegal in the family.
Well, first of all, anybody that's out there that want to represent themselves pro se, all you have to do is read the rules. Whatever you do, the appellate, when you're appealing something, they got what they call appellate rules for appeals. If you modification, got modification rules for modification. Like Texas rule, it was Texas Rule 38. I read Rule 38, and I was able to, interpret, all of the things that I need to do. And once they tell you to do it, the rest of it, if you get stuck try to talk to a lawyer because the lawyer is going to steer you to his pockets. You know what I'm saying? He ain't going to never give you the information that all he can say, well, all I can tell you is that you need to get legal counsel. You know what I'm saying? Or I can't, even the district attorney, they say, I can't give you legal advice. You know what I mean? Because that's how they keep their system going, you know? Because, you know, they get paid on what you don't know. You know what I mean? So, but I assume, you know, I mean, I advise everyone to educate yourself because here I am, man, you know, a dude that never went to law school and I'm perfecting a appeal. There are lawyers who can't even perfect an appeal. I didn't have no paralegal or nothing. You know, I did all my own typing, my own interpretation from my own case laws, you know, did my own research, everything, you know, wrote my own appendix, wrote my own everything, you know, table of contents, you know, my own conclusions and prayers, you know, I quote and cite law, and I also put Rule 52. Now, Rule 52 was very important, Rick, because Rule 52 was the Supreme Court articulation. So that means that if the appellate court tries to, you know, shoot me down and disregard my and refuse to affirm my appeal, then, you know, I at least have a chance to go to the Supreme Court, you know, a state Supreme Court. Then as you go to the state Supreme Court, a lot of people don't know you can go to the federal, you know, court and deal with what they call constitutional law. You know what I'm saying? You can say your constitutional right, and then once they, you know, rule, they can send you back to the trial court. And then after the trial court denies you again, you can go to appellate court again. If the appellate court denies you, can go back to the state Supreme Court. Then you can bypass the federal court. You can go to the higher court, the Supreme Court of America, right. United States Supreme Court. And, you know, and these are processes that they don't tell you about. You know, and most lawyers never get to that point. But if you understand rules and regulations and you understand how to interpret law, then you can take yourself all the way to the Supreme Court. You can eventually, you know, get your case reversed or probably, you know, remand or either actually probably thrown out. You know, because, you know, one thing they hate is that when you fight, because when you fight, you make them work. You know what I'm saying? That's why the Attorney General, you know, they wasn't anticipating me to perfect an appeal. So they had to send me a certificate of conference asking me, can they get an extension for 30 days? Because, you know, they had put 3 attorneys on me, 3 attorney generals, because they didn't expect me to fight back. You know, so they've been having it made for so long because nobody ever gets to the point where I got to. Right. But you know, I'm a fighter, and you know, I'm a good interpreter of things. So you know, I was able to interpret the law. I was able to interpret the rules, and you know, I fought for my rights.
That's what up. That is what's up. I mean, I think by you just having this conversation with me done, hopefully inspired a whole lot of brothers that have been, fearful of, you know, what they facing to, you know, actually take some initiative and go do that research to, you know, fight on their behalf, but not only on their behalf, but on their kids' behalf as well.
Man, hey, if you can learn to walk, if you can learn to talk, you can learn to eat, you can learn the law. You know what I'm saying? I mean, all you got to do is read the rules. You know what I'm saying? Read them over and over and over again. You know, if you don't know how to write an appeal, you know, go to Google sample appeals, a sample of an appeal, and just read the appeals that went before you. Look at the law, look at the cases that went before you, and then, you know, read it and interpret it and mimic it. You know what I mean? And then once you get it down pat, then you just follow every rule that they say. Don't miss not one rule. And every now and then, you know, find somebody that you can ask a question. Because people ain't going to tell you everything, but they'll tell you a little bit. You get a little bit of everything. Because, like, in the final analysis of my appeal, after I did, you know, everything I told you and I got to the perfecting appeal, I had to do the appendix. I didn't know that the appendix, which is, you know, your discovery discovery, so to speak, or your evidence, so I had the original order, I had the court reporter, that I had the modification forms that we filed. I didn't know that they supposed to go right after the appeal. I was just sending them separate, and I asked somebody a question. They said, man, you can't do that. Then I asked somebody a question about this, they said, you can't put no appeal out there. You got names in there. So I had to redact the names and put initials. Then somebody said, well, you got to have a certificate of conference. I said, what's that? They said, you got to count every word that's in there. I said, I don't know how to do that. What I'm going to do, count every word? They said, no, you got to go to Google Docs. And you go to Google Docs, and Google Docs, you can just push numbers of pages, numbers of words, and it'll tell you how many words. You go to Google Docs, you can just put table of contents, and the table of contents will it will organize for you. And then you put letters or numbers, push numbers, and it'll number your pages up the top to the bottom. So, it was along the way, along the journey, I got bits and pieces of knowledge that showed me how to perfect the appeal.
Right.
So, on the day of perfection, I was nervous. I sent it over, through an e-file. They got the Texas e-filing for whatever. So I e-filed it, and the lady got it, and the appeals court called me, and she said, well, congratulations, you perfected your appeal. And then she sent it over to the Attorney General and told them that, they got to do their rebuttal, their reply. So me understanding the game now, I already wrote my reply because, I don't know what issues they're going to bring, but I figured out how to do it now. So when I got everything together, when you doing a reply, you got to address every issue that they address separately. And you got to categorize it, you know what I'm saying? And you got to have a cover letter. And then you got to have, your reasons for rebuttal. Now, I got that already done. I didn't know that before. So now that I'm up on their game and how their rules and regulations go, now I can fight. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just a matter of just interpreting, man, and honing in and doing the hard work, because, you got to get it right the first time, because once you take the toothpaste out the tube, you can't put it back in the tube. And that's very important to know. You know what I'm saying? And we have to understand that it's a difference between tactics and strategy. When a buyer want to talk to his masterminds, they talk strategy. When he want to send somebody to war, they got war tactics. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be a mastermind. You got to go into your chambers, and you got to go into your situation room, and you got to figure it out. You got to have a strategy. You got to be ready. You know what I'm saying? For any tactic that they bring your way. Because chess, is winning before you even put your mind on the board. You got to win before you go to play, and that's the name of the game. That's how you survive, and that's how you be sustainable out here. So yeah, man. To all the brothers that's facing similar situation, man, just keep your head up, man. Read the rules, learn the rules and regulations. Go, type in, the words that's connected to your case. Like in my situation, I put abuse of discretion, and it brought up, Google will bring up everything about abuse of discretion. I put a substantial material change of circumstances, and it brought up everything regarding that. I read all the other cases that was similar to mine, and I was able to interpret, what applies to me, and I made that my argument, and, and I put that in my statement of facts, and I was able to, read and see what a statement of facts was, and I didn't know that the statement of facts is where you persuade the judge. You gotta be persuasive, and you got to be informative. You got to, tell them why, you believe that they should take your side, and you got to be more explicit, but in your argument, you have to be more legally inclined. You cannot argue without law. You got to have case law. You got to substantiate everything you say. So these were just small things that I had to learn along the way, but, conclusion, I know that meant you tell the judge what you seek, what type of remedy you seek, you know what I mean? So once you learn all that stuff, man, then you're ready for prime time. But don't give up, and just study, You know what I'm saying? I mean, listen to all the stuff that I'm saying, and you can fight the system, man. But we got to fight it. We got to get up. We got to fight. We got to fight the system. We can't let the system keep on doing us the way they've been doing us for the last 30, 40 years with these draconian laws and all this, fake baby love. You know, they don't care about our kids, man. And a lot of people don't know, as soon as you're born, the Secretary of State writes his name on your birth certificate. That makes you a ward of the state. That's why when a mother whoops a child or a father whoops a child, DSA or whatever they call themselves, child protection service, they come and they take the child because the child is really not ours anyway, and ever since the time of Jesus, they say what? Take the child, all children under 2, because they know that from the child, the Messiah will come. And that's what they fear. They fear of a Messiah, you know what I'm saying? And they try to suppress the father and suppress the mother, man. Look at our family structure. Back in the 60s, man, we were family. We ate together. We had Sunday dinners, everybody went over grandmama's house. Mom and daddy was together. Daddy worked at the factory. Mama worked at the factory, the kids got sent to college. Now look at us, you know what I'm saying? We are a mountain of destruction, you know what I'm saying? We just killing each other, rampantly, wholesalely, you know what I'm saying? And nobody figured out what really happened. It's the child support system, it's the criminal justice system. All of it is connected and it's all concerning our children. That's why our children at 16 and 17 is killing each other, because it's a concerted effort to attack the so-called family, the father, and make sure that, he have a difficult time. Make sure it's hard for him to get a job. Make sure that he's incarcerated. And then, nobody hires a criminal, you know what I'm saying, with a criminal record. Nobody gets a criminal with a criminal record a place to stay, and you wonder why there's so much homelessness. It's a whole bunch of factors that nobody's considering when they look at this whole picture, man. So, Brother Reek, that's why we dealing with the child support issues, and that's why I formed the hip-hop fraternity, so brothers can come and get legal counsel. They can learn about business. They can learn about ASCAP, BMI, TuneCore, NFTs, NFCs, near-field communications, you know what I'm saying, the blockchain, you know what I'm saying, because they need to understand, what the music industry is all about. They need to understand business. They also need to understand their rights. So we teach them nationality. We teach them that they're not Negroes, colors, black, or Ethiopian, but these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted in 1865. We're teaching them that it's a new emancipation. It's not the emancipation of the slaves in 1865. The new emancipation is free your mind. So we say get your mind free. Once you get your mind free, then you ain't gonna fall for the tricks and trades of the game. Every Monday night we meet in Atlanta at the Ice Bar, and because of that, all the Christian Bloods and JD'sRevenge, they in one building. There's no violence, so we're stopping the violence. And I'm also working with Ice-T and Sister Hernandez and Brother Gangster T in California. We're working to stop the violence. We got to work with the White House to try to stop the violence. So we're doing a lot of great things within the hip-hop fraternity. We're going to be dealing with the child support thing a little bit more in depth. We're going to try to, get some legal aid out there to help those brothers, that's fighting child support, that's going to jail indiscriminately and illegally, for child support, because it's really not for child support, it's for contempt of court, you know what I mean? And that needs to be emphasized, they charging people with contempt because they're not paying child support, not considering, their financial status, man. So thank you, man, for having me, man, and thank you for, for believing in the hip-hop fraternity. I want all the brothers to go to thehiphopfraternity.com. I'm the national CEO. It's a positive organization. We got over 5,000 registered members, about 5,000 unregistered members. So 10,000 members, 35 cities, and over 100 executives. Our objective is our call. It's our culture, our code. We about love, peace, and respect. We believe that your skill set is your asset. So what that means, if you share my video, I share your video. We got 1 million people sharing each other's video. We got 1 million people streaming each other's music. Then we all can become millionaires overnight by just sheer numbers, and that's where we are. We do everything for free. Everybody can join for free except your data in exchange the data. With that data, what we do is we keep you abreast. We email you. We let you know what's popping, what's going on. You know, we share your videos. You can go to the website and you can just join and be on the website. You can share your videos. So thank you, Brother Reek.
Most definitely, all the time. Most definitely, all the time.
My book, The Art of Human Chess, is a bestseller, New York best time seller. And this book here sold millions, sold all over the world, all throughout the prison system. This is the book, The 48 Laws of Game Pimpology. Make sure you get these books. If you don't want to buy the hardcover, if you don't want to buy the paperback, then the best thing to do is go to iTunes on your cell phone and type in my name, PimpinKen, and I guarantee you the book will pop up. If that don't work, go to audible.com, type in my name. If that don't work, go to amazon.com, type in my name. Anywhere books is sold all over the country, you can get my books. These are my bestseller books. You hear people talk about them all the time on Instagram, on Snapchat. These are definitely some good reads. Please get my book. I guarantee you that you would never be the same. Your life would be impacted, and also your life would be enhanced just by getting these two books, The Art of Human Chess and The 48 Laws of Game. Just like the 48 Laws of Power, just like The Art of War.
Too cool to count 24/7.